And many of our clients are spending up to 2 to 3 million a month on Meta and have built their entire marketing function around Meta Creative. Hence why we wanted to run this session. So I am delighted to be joined by two Meta Maestros, Raf and Toby, and an actual creative strategist, Rav. So whilst I let the panelists introduce themselves shortly, please do, as I said, introduce yourself in chat and let us know where you stand on the whole world of creative strategist. Are you one? Are you hiring for one? Do you have them in your team? Or are you here purely to understand more about what this role is? So over to our panelists for some quick introductions. Let's start with you, Raf.
Perfect. Hey, everyone. My name is Raf. I was leading all of the performance marketing and paid user acquisition at Zoe for the last 2 years. And now currently actually still working in the ad space. And for you hearing it first here on this call, by launching this new software, Ad Managed AI, very relevant to creative strategy. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. But I really focus on how do you get really good ads, because that's the big lever on how to scale Facebook and businesses. And that's why we're having this session, because it's something everyone understands. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. I'll pass it over to Toby.
Great. Toby, tell us about you.
Hello, I'm Toby. I'm the founder and CEO of Catalyst, a performance creative agency. I was in-house before as head of performance in sort of a big ecom brand that was IPO'd and stuff like that. And before that, I was agency side and sort of in and out of different agencies and ecom brands. But over that time, I spent about sort of 250 million across Meta and TikTok. And part of that was spending a lot of money on UGC content creators. And over time, I wasted probably 90% of the spend that I put into UGC on really crap creators who were no good. And obviously, as Meta has developed over time, seen the impact of how important that creative strategy is. And so with Catalyst, which I founded just over a year ago, we have a big focus on utilizing our pool of about 6,000-7,000 UGC content creators alongside performance-first creative strategy and deep data insights to help drive growth month on month.
Thanks. So can I just say 6,000 to 7,000 creatives, did you say?
Creators, yes.
Creators. Wow. Okay. That is a big number. And over to our creative strategist, Rav. Tell us a little bit about you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Rav. Great to meet you all. So I'm the performance creative manager at Untamed. For those of you who have good webcams, you'll probably see my cat lanyard. So Untamed is a D2C cat food brand. We're all about making super high quality, nutritious meals for cats. And our mission, as a company, is to just help make cats happier and healthier through really high protein, good food. So, we launched in 2019. We're still a startup, so still very early days, but, we're growing super quickly. So many exciting things happening on the performance and acquisition side. And yeah, there's just so much going on. So really excited to share some insights with all of you guys today.
Rav, as you were just saying, food's so delicious that humans eat it as well.
Exactly.
So I love a definition, and I'd really like to kick off with, what do we actually mean by creative strategy and a creative strategist? Raf, can you help me out here?
Sorry, Nicola, I don't know if you said Raf or Rav. It's very similar.
Oh, that was Raf.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I missed that. Yeah. So what is creative strategy? Creative strategy is essentially how do you make an ad that performs? That's the basis of it. There's a lot of elements that go into that, but a creative strategist is someone who is able to produce and make these ads, month after month. But yeah, there is no hard, solid, fast definition, but it's all about making winning ads. That's the essence of what a creative strategist aims to do, and comes up with that unique angle to do so.
And Rav, as an actual creative strategist, anything you want to add to that definition?
I think Raf summed it up pretty well, but I would basically say like top level creative strategy is kind of where creativity meets business goals. So as Raf said, it's all about developing ideas that not only grab attention, but also drive results. So basically involves, crafting really compelling messaging, visuals, CTAs that really connect with your audience and deliver on specific objectives, whether that's, building awareness, generating leads, driving purchases. And that's where like a creative strategist comes in. So yeah, their role is to not only come up with out of the box ideas that convert, but also using performance data, which is the key here. They use performance data to continuously optimize those ads for performance.
Right. So it's bringing that creativity and data element together.
Yeah.
So Toby, you just mentioned that, your 6,000 to 7,000 creators. What's changed on the Meta platform in the past year or so to make creative so important?
So it's a fantastic question. And the reason everyone's talking about creative strategists and UGC and creative so much really is down to how much the Meta platform has changed. A couple of years ago, we'd all be talking about hiring the best performance marketing manager who had the best sort of omni-funnel setup of top funnel, middle funnel, and bottom funnel, and targeting people based on add to carts and Instagram engagement, website views, and sort of segmented Klaviyo audiences and everything like that. But the way that Meta's changed is it's so simplified now that we use Meta's algorithm, or ASC, Advantage Plus Shopping Campaigns, and we give that a lot of freedom and we go full broad. And so there's a lot less sort of top, middle, bottom of funnel. There's no sort of interest-based or demographic-based targeting. And so it's a lot broader. And what you do is you throw a load of creative in there, and the creative defines what Meta goes off and targets. So, we've done a lot of tests where if we run creative with a 40 plus female, it'll hit 40 plus females. And if we run creative with a bloke in their 20s, it will hit people who are blokes in their 20s, right? And so that's the way you go about it. So Meta uses the creative to go after who the creative will fit, instead of us saying, Meta, you need to go after men who are 28 and in a relationship. That's essentially the core change. And so the real way to drive growth now is mass creative iteration, and then using those learnings sort of to keep that flywheel effect going, and keep creating new creative that fits with who you want to go after.
Right. So whereas before it was all about segmentation and really making sure you're optimizing for the algorithm, now it's all about plenty of creative and letting the algorithm do that work for you.
Yes.
So Rav, coming back to you, what are the key KPIs and success metrics for this role, would you say?
So we view our KPIs on a team level rather than an individual level. And that's just because every member of our team at Untamed is there from ideation to execution. So kind of our team KPIs would be creative volume, how many creative assets are we producing every month, creative win rate. So by creative win rate, I mean, the percentage of tested creators in the account that not only absorb a certain amount of spend, but also maintain a CPA within that target. And then we'll also look at how many new creative styles are we producing each month to make sure that we're really hitting that, creative diversity kind of quota. And then obviously on an individual level, as a creative strategist, when we're analyzing data, we'll look at our engagement metrics like click-through rates, hook rates. So that's the percentage of people that watch the first 3 seconds of the ad. So that really shows how attention grabber your hook is, and also post-click conversion rates. So yeah.
Just coming back to something you said creative styles. That's really interesting. So have a really diverse mix of styles. Like, do you have buckets of style types? Like, how do you define that?
Yeah, so by style, I mean, for example, we don't want to be pushing out content that's all just UGC creator. We want to have a mixture of UGC creator, high production style. We'll have styles where we'll call it like text only. So it could be like a video ad and it will just be a block of text. So we'll make sure that we are, trying completely new different things every month.
Oh, interesting. And Raf, what about you? What are some of the success metrics that you've seen used in companies and that you're using yourself?
Yeah, so super similar to like what Rav was saying on the like creative win rate and creative velocity. Those are your like two key core sort of like parts of the equation. Like how many ads can you make a month and how many of those ads can win. The more you do on both of those, generally the more your account will scale. But when you look at it on like a team level and KPI level, you can actually do think you should track this on an individual level. And one metric that you can look at for like every single person essentially is like, how much is this person driving in profitable ad spend? So this is something I love to look at. It depends on how your business is set up exactly and how it's run, but usually people are in this business to try to drive profitable ad spend in most cases. So you can basically look at that and segment that on like a creative strategist level and look at that on a month-on-month basis. And in order to improve on an individual level, you then look at like click-through rate, hook rate, all of these things, and they apply to different segments of your video, and you learn from that. So that's essentially the feedback you get from Meta. I'm like, okay, this was bad in this metric, but this one was good. Like splice it up, tailor it together, whatever. That is what I would look at. But yeah, profitable ad spend, and then how many creatives are you doing a month, and how many times are they winning based on whatever metric you set. It's like, is it a CPA or a ROAS target? Again, different for every business, but yeah, that's generally how I see it.
And just for me, I'm now understanding what creative win rate is, but what's hook rate?
So hook rate is your impressions divided by 3-second views, meaning like how many people are you stopping scrolling on the feed? If they're watching for more than 3 seconds, then that counts as someone having been hooked according to Meta. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And generally you want something, you know, catchy, something that is like unusual, surprising, sometimes shocking. It's very easy to go into like the too much clickbait mode, and like usually that doesn't work for like long-term revenue. But yeah, that's what you want to try to do with like to try to improve your hook rate.
Right.
Thumb stop ratio, yeah, that's the same thing.
Thank you. And Toby, given that you work with a number of clients, do you find that you use the same standard KPIs across all of them, or do you find they tend to differ from client?
Yeah. Ultimately, what they care about is CPA or ROAS, depending on the company. Essentially the same thing. Those are ultimately top line what matters. But all these other metrics are so important, right? Hook rate especially, but hold rate as well, and CTR. What often we'll find, it's great to come up with a video and it might have amazing hook rate. It might have like a 60% hook rate. It's brilliant, but it's got a terrible CPA. And so these are great learnings, because you can say, right, this hook works here, but perhaps the rest of the video doesn't work. It's got terrible conversion rate. And so you can start learning. If you make, 10 creative, one's got great CPA, terrible hook rate, and one's got great hook rate, terrible CPA, then you splice them up, you put them together, and you get a super winner, stuff like that. So all these metrics play into this sort of wider piece of how you keep iterating on that creative time and time again.
I think we might need a metrics cheat sheet after this session with some definitions as well. Might be borrowing you to help me do that. Toby, just sticking with you. A lot of people, myself included, had never heard of this job title, creative strategist, 12 months ago. Why is this suddenly such an important role to hire for? And is it replacing your kind of classic performance marketer?
I'd say, it sort of goes back to what I said at the start about how Meta's changed, because it used to be really, really complex, and you would have to hire someone who knew what they were really on about in order to build those complex structures, right? And do all the boring segmentation of audiences and stuff like that. But because Meta's more streamlined now and better for it, actually what a performance marketing manager will spend most of their time doing is saying, this creative's working, this creative isn't working, we need more of this, less of this. And so very quickly, a performance marketing manager's job has really become a creative strategist if they want to actually, drive growth month on month for any of their accounts. And so there's no point hiring like a head of performance for 70, 80K when really you should be hiring a creative strategist to say, look at the data and say, we need more of this, less of this, and keep iterating on it.
So Rav, given you are a creative strategist, do you just have creative strategists in your team?
Yeah, so we are all basically creative strategists. My official title is performance creative manager, but at my core, I'm a creative strategist. We have Jamie, who's growth lead, he's creative strategist. And we have, our team, we basically are all creative strategists, but, have slightly different titles, but we all do very similar roles.
Right. Okay. This is interesting because, as I said, this is relatively new in the UK. Raph, I know you've done some work in the US. Have they been ahead, behind in this?
Yeah, the US generally, there's a lot more ad spend that goes through there. It's a bigger country. Things are more expensive there. Yeah, and they're generally like, if you look at who are spending the most, profitably, it's usually in the US. So they're kind of ahead in some of those senses. So it's good to look there. And they've had this job title for over 2 years from what I can see. So yeah, they've been a bit ahead of it. But creative has always been important. It's kind of but like to what Toby was saying, it's like the shift is just becoming more and more important. It was always there, just not as prevalent.
Got it. So we're playing catch up at the moment. Just sticking with you, Raph, where does this creative strategist role sit in the marketing team? Who does it generally report into? What are they responsible for? We've talked about some of the core KPIs, but what does a day in the life of them look like?
Yeah, so great question. And this is also really important to set up for success. So yeah, where I normally see this being placed is within the growth marketing or performance segment of a business. And yeah, the reason that is usually those departments within marketing are very data-led and focused. It's all about experimentation, learning from the data. So they usually sit in the acquisition team, the performance team, and not necessarily in the brand team. Even though, a creative strategist is all about coming up with good ideas, doing a lot of research, having really good copywriting. You might think that it could sit under there, but highly recommend going more in the performance team in that sense. So yeah, you learn from the data. So yeah, that's where I've seen it sit, and where I've had it in my team as well. Is in the performance side of things. Right.
Interesting comment here from Jade. Thank you, Jade, who said she's worked in a US company where they've been set up this way for 5 to 6 years. So well ahead of us. Rav, in terms of your team structure, where do you sit in regards to the broader marketing team?
So we're still a very small performance team of 5. So we basically are the marketing team. We don't have an in-house paid social team. We work very close with our media buying agency and looking at the data in the ad account, but we basically are the marketing team who sits in the performance function. So yeah.
Got it. Right. And Toby, given that you work across a number of different clients with all different team structures, Raph was saying, I highly recommend that this sits within performance versus brand. How are you seeing this play out? And are you seeing challenges with brand teams who may have a different view on the types of creative that should be being used?
You're gonna get me in trouble for sure.
I love controversy on these calls. It's all about a bit of debate.
Let's just say we have 25 clients or in 25 ad accounts. Every company's different and they have different team makeups. Some are very brand led, some are very performance focused. And I would just say the accounts that scale month on month profitably are the ones that are in the performance team, and the ones that struggle to scale are very brand focused.
Right. And what's the reason for that, would you say?
Getting
you off the hook yet, Toby?
Part of performance and part of creating winning content is realizing that you're producing ads for a platform that is organic, right? You're producing ads for a platform that is the easiest platform on the planet to skip. You can just keep scrolling past stuff. To create a winning ad, you need to produce something that is native to where it belongs. It's not on the side of a bus. It's not before a movie. It's not on TV. And so you need to produce something that is gripping and sometimes and authentic and raw. And sometimes that does not go in line necessarily with all brand guidelines. But also, you know, if some people are, you know, maybe the founder's super involved or whatever it is, they have an idea of what their brand is. And it tends to fly in the face of testing and that growth mindset of let's do everything we can to create a winning ad to get the best possible results.
Right. Would you fire brand teams, Toby? A question.
I don't know if anyone on this call is on a brand team. No, I would just say that you should let the numbers speak for themselves, because there's an objective truth and there's a subjective opinion. And it's very, very easy to get the objective truth by running the ad and seeing if it works or not.
I think that is excellent advice. Prove it by numbers and ROI. Okay, I'm going to change the subject. We might come back onto this at the end in some Q&A if people have got more questions on this topic. I would love to hear some examples of effective creative strategy from each of you. So I'm going to start with you, Raf. Can you give us a couple of examples of what's really worked for you?
Yeah, so this is something that, yeah, I've experimented a lot with in the last like year and a half to 2 years. And there's a couple of like key things that you need to sort of get looping in order to get this working really well. One of those things is your feedback loop. So in order to get to a good winning ad, you need to be essentially testing as fast as possible. The longer you do that, sort of like the longer your results go, and you can see how like this kind of like adds on and makes everything slower. So reducing that amount of time to be as little as possible and doing as many videos as possible kind of gets you in that like winning framework. And I've tested a lot of things from, you know, like a full stack creator where I'm myself making the video as the actor, as the full stack creator, to doing, you know, with outsourced creators, sending them briefs, to doing in-person shoots, and, you know, hiring actors, and like all these different kind of ways with the ultimate goal of making a winning ad. And what I found to have worked the best so far is really these like in-person shoots. And I'll quickly go into like a little bit of a breakdown of how that works. But essentially you do like, you know, a week or two of prep work on this. You have like 8 to 10 different script ideas, like really solid ones. This is similar. If anyone has done YouTube ads before, it's quite similar to how you'd run that. And you put a lot of work into like the script, in the copywriting, making sure everything is really good on that. And you come to a shoot day with like 2 actors, 3 different outfits. You get a location on, there's this website called Scouty, or Airbnb. Usually Airbnb is a bit more strict on their T's and C's though. But anyways, you get a location for a day and you can literally make like 100 ads in a single day. It's pretty crazy what you can get through in 8 or 9 hours. And yeah, you basically run through these 8 to 10 scripts. You have 3 to 5 hooks at least on like each of these scripts. And then you have all this B-roll that you can use to mash up into lots of other things. And the key part of why this has worked over all these other methods I've tried is that when you have someone on set who's looked into the ad account and like has seen like hundreds and hundreds of ads on like what's worked and what's not, you can basically be like the meta assistant of like, oh no, I think we need to like retake this shoot, for example, because the delivery wasn't good, or it's like it wasn't convincing enough or authentic. And like just being able to redo that shoot is like a superpower versus sending it to a creator and then, you know, you have to wait like a week. It's like, actually that didn't work, look so good, but it's like, whatever, we'll test it. And it probably doesn't work. And then you probably don't go back to it because you're like, that creator didn't work. But when you're there in person, you can just make these decisions quicker. And it goes back to what I was saying with like this instant, like very quick feedback loop. So that's like one of the big learnings I've had this year on how to make like really good winning ads from really good creative strategy. And I've tried to do this like as much like remotely as possible, but there's nothing quite like this like in-person shoot. And final thing as well is on those shoots, like don't be like super strict on what is in the script. Some of my best ads have been improvised. So for example, I did a Zoe shoot maybe like 5 months ago where I had just brought a Frisbee on set because there was like a garden. And we decided to, I don't know if you probably, a lot of people, if you're all in creative strategy, kind of have seen like Post-it note ads. So I was like, oh, what's a variation of that? It's like actually writing on the Frisbee and then like catching it. It's like a Frisbee coming at you, already like very attention grabbing. So yeah, and that was like one of our best winning hooks for like 3 to 4 months. So yeah, it's kind of like when you're on set, you kind of get this different energy of being able to make these ads, and this improvisation of when you're there is honestly where you get some of the best ideas. And that has what has worked for me to make really the best ads. So sorry, a bit of a long-winded answer there.
No, that was super helpful. And there's definitely some love for Post-it note ads in the chat. And I think one of the things then that clearly creative strategists need to do is go on an improv course so you can hone those skills. I think last time we chatted, I'd just done a class in it. Yeah, I'm definitely not a natural, but it was a lot of fun. Rav, what about you? What would be your advice on this and some examples from you?
Yeah, so at Untamed, our performance creative workflow revolves around 3 main areas, which is, experimentation, innovation, execution, iteration. So we do everything in-house. So that means everything from ideation to filming to editing, what Raph would describe as a full stack content creator, but now I guess could be a creative strategist. So the way we work at Untamed is in weekly sprints. So every week we'll have a brainstorming session where each member of the performance team will pitch 3 to 5 creative concepts, which usually include a mix of brand new creative angles, iterations of our best performing ads, and then also inspiration drawn from outside our industries. But the key thing here is that each idea will have a solid hypothesis behind it. And by hypothesis, I mean, essentially we articulate the reasoning behind why we believe this ad will resonate with our audience and drive performance. So we actually don't look at that many pet food brands, and you're probably wondering that's quite weird, but whilst it's useful to be aware of what they're doing in our space, we just try and stay ahead of the curve by, exploring creative approaches that set us apart. So I'm going to call out MVF here because I see Johnny. Hi, Johnny. I see Johnny on the screen. Like MVF is a great, brand to look at. They're lead gen, but they're always one step ahead of the game, and that's where Raph and I used to work. So got really good experience there. We love looking at, Simmer Eats, Suri, Zoe, all brands that are outside the pet food space, all doing great things. So, and even looking not just at, Atria or Ads Manager, we read articles. So for example, one of our winning angles the last few months has been the history of pet food angle, and that came about after just reading an article on, where pet food started and the history behind it, and read an article and we were able to make a really compelling performance script out of it. So yeah, it's just about researching but looking outside of your niche as well. I really recommend it. And then also trying to take things in-house as much as possible would be my recommendation. It might not work for some brands, but for us it really has worked, because it's really meant that we have been able to keep our creative velocity really high, making sure that we do produce 30 ads a week, making sure we do test over 100 ads a month, and making sure we do hit that creative diversity as well.
Great. So really opening up those inspiration sources. Don't just stick to your niche.
Yeah.
Toby, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, when I started Catalyst, I really thought the value prop was that we had all these, thousands of creators that were tried and tested. But I've known, really what we're selling is a feedback loop, which Raph touched on. Ultimately, the creators having all their diversity is fantastic, but ultimately what we are selling is a creative strategy package with that feedback loop, and that's actually what drives success. A lot of what these guys have touched on, you know, is that saying we run a weekly or a bi-weekly creative brainstorm where we pull in insights from external places, whether they're relevant or irrelevant to the brand. That's saying we use Raf's wonderful program called AdScan, which reverse engineers GDPR rules, so you can see how much people have spent on ads. It's very useful to find top performing ads. We use that, and that whole side of things to look at external insights. And, you know, we work with the internal team, the brand team, the performance team to sort of brainstorm out all these ideas. We just do it in Figma. Here's one here, this sort of thing, right? You know, each week we'll use reports on what's working, top performers internally, what are some external insights. We come together, come up with some hooks, some problems, some features, call to actions, blend them all together. That's part one of it, and that's what we do weekly or bi-weekly. But actually, the second part of the feedback loop is really, really important. And it's really boring, and I'm sure anyone who's a performance marketing manager will hate me for saying this because they might get asked to now do it. But naming conventions, the lamest thing in the world, are so important for looking at stuff from a top level. You can look down, you can say, that's the best ad of this month, let's make more like that, and that's great. And you can look at ads individually, but when you're testing, you know, 30, 40, 50 ads a week, it's the stuff that is going across the board, which you might not notice, which makes a big impact. So whenever we run ads, even if we're not actually they have an in-house performance marketing manager who's actually uploading all the ads and stuff like that, we will do naming conventions for all their ads. And so they can be short like this one. These are relatively short naming conventions where we've got date, hook, headline, format, asset length, style, the product, the problem we talk about, the benefit we talk about, the creator name, the creator age, the gender, the accent, shoots out names like that. Sometimes we have longer ones, like, let me find a longer one. I can't find ones off the top of my head. Here we go. These ones where we'll bring in stuff like, you know, hair type, hair color, hair length, if it's about that, or if it's about, you know, weight loss, maybe we'll bring in, you know, what's their build, or they've got tattoos, all these different intricacies we'll bring into the naming conventions. And so that means that when we start pulling it up, we can see in the account at a wider level, we pull everything in with supermetrics. And so we can start seeing the intricacies, like what's working, what asset length's working better from a CPA standpoint, what problem has got a better CPA. I mean, talking about the problem of heat, I'm overheating in bed has been more impactful for these guys. You know, if we look in this one, for example, we might see that the asset length of 30 to 45 seconds has a much better CPA than the asset length of 20 to 30 seconds or over a minute. Right, and so all these small things that pull in, what creator ages are working better. We can see that actually people who are 40 plus get a better CPA than people who are 20 to 30, for example. All these small bits of details that we can bring in at a wider level. So we're not just looking at individual ads and saying, oh, that ad's the best, so let's make more like that. We're saying, oh, across the board of the 300 grand we spent this month, we can see that these age groups work best, these demographics, this type of problem, this type of feature, this type of hook, this sort of length of video as well. And so that all comes into those sessions as well. And so when we're doing it, we're not just looking at what's working externally, we're looking at what is happening internally at a very granular level as well. So we can constantly iterate, and that's the value.
I love Jake's comment here, creative data on steroids. And just as a very quick segue, I believe, Toby and Raf, you were quite up for doing a workshop on creative planning in the future. So we will send around some more information on that after the call, and if you're interested, you can sign up. So we're going to appreciate that because there was some amazing insight there. So what if I wanted to become a creative strategist? What do I need to be able to do to upskill in, to train in? Toby, sticking with you.
So, you know, this is back when we did a panel a long time ago. It might have been back in 2024, I can't remember. Raf said something really interesting. He said that you can teach data, but you can't teach creative. And I think that's pretty fair in general. There's a side to performance marketing, which is really, really key, which is the data side and understanding all of that. But now that other element of that creative mindset is so core. And some people can't necessarily sort of tap into that. And so I found, because, you know, just for me, from my business, I've had to hire a lot more on the creative side than the performance side as sort of the landscape of Meta has changed. And I found that actually hiring from sort of the organic social side of things has been pretty useful, and then sort of training them in data by sort of using, you know, really great, brilliant analytical people on the performance marketing side to teach these people who are more organic, social driven how to think analytically and performance marketing-esque, but they still have that sort of creative mindset at their core. And obviously that's, you know, that's an existing place you could go and look or start from. But one of those things that they all are is they are sort of somewhat chronically online. Being online all the time, you know, whether you're just scrolling through TikTok all the time or Instagram, stuff like that, does help because you become, you know, native to the platform, which you're ultimately going to run these ads on. You start to understand the trends, and the ads that perform best are the ads that are finger on the pulse and relevant. You know, if you create an ad for a theme that was sort of viral, you know, a year ago, it's not going to work. But if you create one that's sort of relevant to the hour, then it's going to perform a lot better.
I have a feeling what you're politely trying to say, Toby, is that I have no hope of becoming a creative strategist.
Exactly. Give up now, Nicola.
Rav, what about you? Any tips from you, and if you want to go into this role?
Yeah, so I would say when it comes to, you know, skills and backgrounds that are ideal for a creative strategist, there isn't a one-size-fits-all answer. People can come from various fields, such as media buying, for example. That was my background. But for me, there are like certain skills and qualities that I really value and I really like to see in candidates. And those are, you know, number one would be storytelling ability. A great creative strategist will be able to take existing successful elements of an ad and spin them into a brand new narrative that, you know, will really resonate with the target audience. So, you know, can they storytell well, basically? The second would be, do they have an innovative mindset? So I love to see people, you know, who are willing to try anything and everything, which is exactly what we do at Untamed and what we did at MVF. You know, we literally did everything. Because that kind of innovative mindset is really crucial in a landscape that's constantly evolving as it is now. And then the third one I would say is, do they have a really good understanding of media platforms? So, you know, they need to recognize how like TikTok, Meta, and YouTube differ in terms of audience engagement and content style. So, you know, each platform needs tailored ad creatives to resonate effectively with their unique user base. So, you know, those are the three kind of skills I would look for in a potential candidate.
Right. So having a very broad mindset, not afraid to try new things. And Rav, if I'm hiring for one, what are some of the key questions or areas to test on?
So I mentioned the storytelling ability, but the main one would be, can they take performance data like what's worked in previous ads, and can they use that data to create new ads that will perform even better? So I want to see if they can come up with ideas that, you know, go beyond what's been done both by us and by other brands. And it's all about, you know, pushing creative boundaries, staying ahead of the curve. So I'm going to use Georgie as an example for this. Hope you don't mind Georgie. No, she's on this call. But Georgie is a really impressive candidate who now works at Untamed as a creative strategist that we interviewed a few months ago. And we basically gave Georgie a task that was to create an ad for Untamed. So we gave Georgie all of the performance data behind our top performing ads. And basically what stood out to me when she created this ad was how she just went above and beyond. So can I share my screen and play this ad? It's,
of course,
I think I have it so you guys can see what you guys can just watch this ad.
You wouldn't feed your cat chocolate.
Huh?
So why trust America's largest manufacturer of confectionery to produce your cat's dinner?
When I found out my supermarket cat food was produced by Mars, I decided to take a look at what I was actually feeding Mojo.
Turns out the food contained cornmeal, fillers, and mysterious funky meat, which would damage her health and upset her stomach. No wonder my cat smells like
I didn't know. I didn't know.
So I decided to make a change and switch to Untamed. Untamed use only 100% fresh real meat and human-grade ingredients in their recipe. It contains twice as much protein as the cat food I had been feeding Mojo, and she actually likes this one.
Woo!
The whole process was really simple, and I could even tailor the meal plans to her preference. She really doesn't like shrimp. Now I know she'll get everything she needs in one monthly package. Grab a trial box from Untamed for just £8 and see the difference it makes in your bestie.
Wow, I think we just need a little round of applause there for Georgie. Thank you for letting us share that. Well, that's amazing. And a question, Georgie, did you actually eat the Untamed food?
It was tuna. Sorry. Sorry to disappoint.
Really impressive. Thank you. And Raf, moving over to you. If you do move into a creative strategist role, what's next? What does the potential career trajectory look like?
Yeah, that's a really good question. In terms of, yeah, I guess once you get started in creative strategy, you get exposed to, different parts of the business, but, mainly on like the revenue generating side. So next steps from creative strategy, if you're in a team of creative strategists, if you're the only one, different. I'll go with the team example right now. If you're there, the next step would potentially be ownership of a channel at a company. So example, if you're doing a lot of like meta ads, a good like potential move could be like, oh, actually I'm going to own YouTube as a channel or TikTok as a channel. And then the next step from there would be potentially like owning all the channels or looking at different parts of where acquisition comes in or any kind of touch points, and you kind of like level up in terms of responsibilities there. But ultimately you want to try to have the most impact on the business as possible in terms of career progression, and that to me makes the most sense. But again, you can go into like different elements or different kind of career trajectories as well, but that's the one I would see as
Thank you. And Rav, for you, if you don't mind me asking, where do you see your career progression going, being an actual creative strategist?
I think that because the role is still very new, there's no set or traditional career path for me, which makes it very exciting. The role is really what you make of it. So for me, I'm really passionate about performance creative. And so right now, I've taken on more of a manager role where I'm involved in, building out a team of entire performance creative strategists and the performance creative function, and managing the team, and it's been really, really exciting. But if you don't want to work as part of a bigger team, you could always go down the agency route, start your own agency or consultancy down the line. So I think it's just really it's really up to you to carve out your own path and take the role in any direction you want to go down.
Got it. So moving into the realms of Toby's space.
You should all come join me. Absolutely.
So one last question, because I know we've got lots of questions in chat and I want to make sure we address as many of those as possible. We've seen this whole evolution of this role, the new creative strategist naming. Looking at your crystal balls, what's next? What's the next evolution of the current creative strategist? Toby.
Oh God, throwing me in it there.
Yes.
I mean, it's interesting what Raf talks about being in person and filming it yourselves. I think there's this element of being hands-on, which is so great. We were having a chat with one of our clients today about one of their product bases. They're struggling to scale, and ultimately the result is they just don't have enough creative in that space. So they've got a ton of B-roll and an engaged founder. So we just scripted up a load of concepts for them, and the founder's going to film it all today, and we're going to edit it all together. And it's just quick iteration like that. I think there's this part on creative strategy which is so data orientated, and I think that's what a lot of people perhaps miss. They think that creative is just getting a creator on Twirl and sending them the product and asking them to throw something together, when in reality it is that data approach of pulling in all those insights together and letting it drive that space. And I think that just has to get more granular. I think for us, the thing that's made such a big impact are those naming conventions and stuff like that, and just having data on a wider scale that we can pull in, and that's really impacted results. But then also just speed of iteration that you can get in. So the way that I think the role will increase and change over the next sort of year really is more data to back it up and quicker turnarounds to hop on trends and iterations.
Right. Speed and data. Raf, what's in your crystal ball?
Yeah, so always tough because I feel like we did this last time and we tried to make these predictions and we were probably all wrong.
Yeah, but I like them anyway, even if they're wrong.
Yeah, but what I think is going forward is you still have the those fundamentals of that equation I was talking about, like creative velocity and creative win rate. I think with the more tech that's being released, essentially creative strategists just have more leverage to do both of those things: create more ads and have a better win rate. That's it. It allows people to do more of that. So, for example, with the creative velocity, another pro tip for everyone here: there's this new like AI model called Flux. If you just go foul.ai, I think is one of the websites that hosts the model. You can self-host it as well, but you can essentially make like as many like post-it note ads as you want. So they're the model that cracked like writing within an AI generated image, and I've seen this work for like a lot of people now. So yeah, this is a really good one, and you can generate hundreds of statics at a time with this. So that's an example of where I kind of see it going. Is like we're going to see more and more volume of ads, and then in terms of creative win rate, there's a lot more tools to get a lot better understanding of customers now. There's likely going to be more and more data granularity of what Toby was talking about. And a creative strategist doesn't necessarily need a data analyst to do that. It's like can also use AI. If you drop in like a CSV file into ChatGPT, you can literally have a conversation with the CSV file. It's actually pretty incredible. So I think the leverage that a creative strategist will have is just going to keep growing. And I think teams will actually get smaller in the sense that it's like you can actually do more with a lot less, if that makes sense. And if you're just really smart about like which tool to use and everything.
Okay, so I think we need 2 cheat sheets here. We need one on KPIs and definitions and one on how you can use the best AI tools. And Raph, if you've got a chance, it'd be great if you could just bung that tool in chat as well so people can go and check it out. And finally, Rav, what's in your crystal ball?
Yeah, that's a difficult question, but I think just what's interesting, even in the word, creative strategy, creative strategist, creative suggests, fun, imaginative, thought-provoking content, while strategy, it implies leans into data, numbers, and KPIs. And so many people I've met always say, oh, I'm way more data-driven, I'm way more creative. But there are actually so many people out there who don't realize that you can be a master of both and you don't always have to go down one side or the other. So yeah, I would just encourage people to just like have fun and play around. And if you think you're data driven, have a go at being in some of the ads, have a go at editing. Like I'm definitely not a video editor at all. I can use CapCut and Capwing and that's it, but I still love editing ads. So yeah, it's all about just trying everything. And I think that's where like the new generation of creative strategists will come about, people who are involved in every step of the process, because I do think that really helps.
Just on that, having fun with it, we've really, because obviously we work with, in a way, like, thousands and thousands of creators who edit all their own videos and stuff like that. And we've really tried to encourage that side of it in a sort of, bonus structure where we work with all our creators. Essentially, ones that produce the best ads get like a bonus, essentially double the amount that we would have paid for the creative every time they do it. And just trying to like create that community around our creators and our UGC people, just about sort of the fun and the thrill of trying to create that winning ad. I think that's so key. And it is fun. You're absolutely right. It's a right laugh, because at the end of the day, like, it's not that serious. It's not like we're heart surgeons. We're creating essentially funny videos that sell a product people don't really need on the internet. So, just trying to make it as good as possible and having fun with it often ends in the best results.
So fun and freedom, and a role that I clearly am not able to do from what you've told me, Toby. So yeah, very sad about that. So we have 8 minutes for questions, and there is a great one here from Alessia, which is: when developing full funnel creatives, I often struggle to align the strategy with actual platform performance. For example, a creative we intend for acquisition sometimes works better for retargeting. What advice do you have for effectively strategizing and planning a full funnel creative approach that aligns more closely with platform outcomes? Who wants to take that one?
I can have a go at this one. I've seen a very recent example of this, where an ad that was so a lot of ads that you see on your ad account will, the top spending ones will generally be more bottom of the funnel. They usually get the most spend because they bring in the most purchases according to what Meta sees. But sometimes you get that ad that has more of a top of funnel type of angle. So for example, like a three reasons why you need this, whatever. Kind of like going on more of the TikTok organic approach, but with the like Facebook led sort of framework on how you make an ad. And when you see like that ad actually start to spend, it will like Facebook basically will spend on where it thinks it will deliver the most conversions at the CPA or ROAS you want. And sometimes you can get both of those. So this ad, for example, was more of a top of funnel ad, but was actually driving purchases. So it's actually achieving both. And because of that, it was able to scale like that ad account by like 2-3x in like a single day. It's pretty wild. So it's hard to do that, but it is possible. And ultimately, like depending on what your campaign setup is, it's gonna optimize towards that. If you're going for only top of funnel and like views, as an example, or link clicks or something that you want, or even at the cart, Facebook is just gonna optimize towards that, and it's gonna find the best creative that achieves that objective. So I think the idea is not actually on that Facebook campaign, but what's an ad that can perform that achieves that objective. You want to like find the mix of those two, and not like what you change on Meta, if that makes sense.
I think I a similar sort of thing. You know, there's elements of metrics that you can look at. Typically, an ad that has a better conversion rate is going to be better for the lower end of the funnel. An ad with a better hook rate and a better click-through rate is going to be better for the top of the funnel. And it's just because there's an element of trying to create a mystique and tricking people into watching your video and sort of guerrilla marketing, selling to someone without them being sold to at the top of the funnel. And that lower end of the funnel, it's a lot more like, these are the features, these are the reasons why this is better than other products, or this is why you need it. And so just sort of differentiating between the two is really key. Most people nowadays don't have a segmented setup in their accounts. Like they won't have a top of funnel and a middle or bottom of funnel. But some do if they're really high AOV products, I've found. And just a little tip for anyone who is a performance marketer here, if you have an ASC, you can go to the account level, define in existing customers, and you can put like add to cart or website views 30 days and define that as an existing customer. So it is then excluded from your ASC, and you can do a retargeting campaign with more conversion rate, testimonials, statics, stuff like that in the lower end to sort of create that full funnel approach.
Thanks, Toby. Super helpful. So a question from Chris. To be successful, does a creative strategist need a business partner who is metrics focused to tie creative success and in-platform metrics to a higher confidence CPA or ROAS?
Yes, it would be great if the creative strategy could just do that as well. But if you've got a small team, it'd be great for the creative strategist to do that, and that would encapsulate the whole job. But you know, for example, on our side, just because we're a bigger team, because we're an agency, you know, we have people who are very, very creative focused, and they're more, you know, they're from that more organic background. They sort of got more of a creative mindset. And we have other people who are very data performance focused, and they feed together and they work cohesively as a team. And that works really, really well for us. But it might be if you are hiring internally, that you might want to condense it into just one role.
Okay.
Yeah,
go Rav.
No, on that one, I would just say that, yeah, as I mentioned earlier, I feel like with creative strategists, some people think they're either creative driven or data driven, but, you know, I think to really help your team and, you know, to make as much great content as you can, someone who is able to analyze data as well as, you know, provide those really good ideas is really, really beneficial. So if you can train, you know, members of your team up on the data side, that would be great. And I think that would be, yeah, really useful.
So as we were talking about earlier, it's really about investing in upskilling them in the data piece because they've already got that creative piece.
Yeah.
Last question from William. How do you do creative testing on Meta if your goal is driving an improvement in unaided brand awareness? Oh, some deep thought here.
So there's really boring. Sorry, you can say that again. The driving brand awareness and no conversions.
Yeah, so this is all about an improvement in unaided brand awareness.
So essentially the same as running a TV ad or putting it on the side of a bus. Well, the fortunate thing about Meta is it still tracks a lot of data, right? So you can still look at all the soft metrics of an ad like hook rate and hold rate and CTR. And that's what's going to be really important for you at that stage. If you're running an ad purely for awareness, then what you want to get is for people to watch your ad all the way through. I would say hold rate is likely one of the most important things for you. If you're driving traffic, maybe it's CTR. We run a lot of awareness campaigns at the moment in the build up to Black Friday. September, October, absolutely core times to build a fresh audience, which you can then retarget in Black Friday. And so typically most of our ad accounts, we're spending 10 to 30% of our spend on just awareness in general, so that we can retarget them later on. And yeah, we look at specifically hold rate as that key metric for those. And we typically find more of that UGC native sort of stuff works better, not really the polished based content.
Interesting. So it's just about which metrics you're focusing on. So it's hold rate there. Raph, you've got something you wanted to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, we did a very similar thing, not exactly unaided brand awareness, but using Meta for it's not what it's meant to do. Where we at Zoe, we have a YouTube channel and a big podcast, and we're looking at how do we grow that podcast as effectively as possible. And one of the ways is actually we would test our YouTube thumbnails on Facebook to see which one gets the best click-through rate, because on YouTube you can only do an A/B test with maybe like 2 or 3. So we would launch 20 at a time there and get the one, and our metric was click-through rate because that's most relevant to YouTube on what gets someone to click through. And then from that, we would do further testing on YouTube. But that's an example of how you can kind of test your creative for very cheap. I'm talking like, this is like maybe like 40 pounds, not even, to test all 20 ads. You see which one comes out on top and the best click-through rate. And Facebook is really good at getting data for very little impressions. It's basically, it's kind of removed this idea of statistical significance on ads because Facebook just tries to predict ahead of that. So I quite like that it's done that, and you can kind of get these results a lot faster. So yeah, that you kind of have to think like, cool, as Toby was saying, like, what is the most relevant metric for you for this unaided brand awareness, and figure out how you test and run it. But it's definitely possible.
Brilliant. We are bang on 2 o'clock, so I'm afraid I'm going to have to wrap up there. If anyone wants to reach out to you three, are you happy for them to connect with you on LinkedIn?
Absolutely. I've also pinged a calendar link there if anyone wants to chat through data strategy production.
Thank you. And we are going to be organising this workshop, so watch this space. And obviously anyone that's attended this webinar has first refusal on a space. So we will get some dates in for that as well. I think we might need several of them. So massive thank you to our 3 wonderful panelists. You've been fabulous. I've learned so much from this session. I think I'm going to have to watch it because we have managed to record. We will be sharing the recording and some of the notes as well. And yeah, there'll be more to follow on a workshop. So thank you so much. And if anyone is interested in creative strategy roles, do let us know. We have several that we're looking for at the moment. Thanks, everyone.